Hey everyone, Hannah Mouse 1 here, and today I'm going to bring you the first part of a two-part series that I'm making about making my Halloween costume. Halloween is fast approaching, and I decided that I wanted to hand make my costume this year. In the past, my Halloween costumes have been pretty bad, mostly just because I never really cared much for Halloween. But I decided this year that I really wanted to make a costume, as I've been really getting into my artwork. And I decided I wanted to go as Phantom of the Opera because I went to see Phantom a few weeks ago, and I'm on a super Phantom of the Opera high. I love musicals, and I mean, anyone who's seen Phantom probably and is into musicals probably agrees that it is an outstanding musical. It's not my favourite musical, but it is definitely up there. But I'm here just making the mask part in this episode. The next video will be on putting together the rest of my costume and doing my makeup and making any props I want to take. And I'm here just covering a tinfoil mask shape with paper, and I'm just covering it all over. Now just working out the brow bone to give it some form. And I'm just building up the shape of it, trying to make it look, not realistic, but almost as though it's part of the skull, almost, is what my intention was. As though the mask is almost part of the skull sort of thing, as opposed to a fashionable sort of masquerade mask, which, I mean, is probably what is intended. With the whole masquerade theme of Phantom of the Opera. But I always thought that the way the mask looks always looks almost like a bone. So I feel like having it look a bit more like a skull still works. Just here making up the bridge of the area where the eye meets the nose. I redo the nose 4 times in this, just because I found it so hard to get right. I just kept tearing it off and redoing it, and then trying again, and everything just took so long for me to work out how I wanted it, I guess. Oh, and if you are planning on making your own mask, don't use tinfoil as a base. It doesn't really do a lot. Just use papier-mache from scratch. It doesn't make a huge difference. If you do want to use an armature, use wire. It's stronger, doesn't bend as easily, so you can work off it easier without it losing its shape. But I didn't have any, so I thought tinfoil would work. It's not the best, but obviously this is the first time for me making a mask, and obviously every first time for something comes with a learning curve, naturally. And I'm here just trying to build out the shape of the mask. Now going on to the back for a while, covering everything on the back the same way as I did the front. Just covering it over with the paper strips, and just covering everything neatly. This is the biggest project I've ever made out of paper mache. I think it took 3 of those red cups full of paper mache in total, and I made a pretty significant dent in my paper tub. Here's where I tear off the nose for the first time. Mixing up another batch of paper mache here, and I'm just going over everything and building everything up, covering it over and sticking on more paper strips, and I'm just covering everything into place. This took so long. I think it took me about 4 hours just covering it over. I didn't realize it's not tedious in any way. I didn't notice the time passing. I just looked at my recording and was just oh my god, I've been recording for 4 hours. And it was just a bit of a shock to see how long I'd spent just covering this thing in paper. And you could see just by how quickly my hands are moving, how much this was sped up by. It was slightly ridiculous. But here I go, just continuing the back. I mean, obviously, if a mask is, everything's going to be in different positions for different people. Here, to do this, I just press the tinfoil into my face, and then just put my finger where my eye would be, took it off, and then poked a hole through. Obviously, don't poke a hole through it with it on your face. It's not a good idea. Here I'm building out the cheekbone a bit, trying to really emphasize the bits that are raised and like just really go over the top with it. Just try and make everything as like almost like not natural per se, but like as cohesive, I suppose. Because like I just kind of went, okay, this looks good with this and this looks good here, and I feel like it needs this here. I wasn't working off a pattern or anything. I did on my computer monitor just have a picture of all, like just the Phantom, like just Phantom of the Opera Google image searches. Here I'm building up. I continue to build everything up, bring it round to go up to the where the nose will be, and just trying to like work the paper mache in my hands before applying it, because that way you get more of a like clay like substance than paper pieces, I guess. And I'm just working everything down and around. Nose attempt number 2, here we go. And I'm just trying to build a bridge for the nostrils, getting everything to almost like defy gravity when it's drying is so difficult. Like make sure, a tip is to make sure you have your paper wetter than you think you need it to be. Like put more paper mache liquid in than you suppose that you would imagine that you need, because it like almost soaks it up, and then it becomes dry and crumbly really easily when you start working it, and it gets on the table, and like a lot of it just you think you need a lot less than you actually do. And I'm just continuing to use my felting needle to mold everything out, tearing up more paper. I don't know why I bothered tearing up the paper when I've literally got a massive box full of paper scraps, because if I'm bored I tend to just cut up paper for paper mache. So I'm just building a bridge, like the line where I want the other side of the nose to go. I think this was another failed attempt on the nose, but this is where I define the where I want the end of the mask to reach. I don't change that too much after this, but I do change the actual structure of the nose itself. But I am definitely making progress with this, and yes, it took a long time, but getting to this part, but it is definitely coming along now. Just continuing to work everything with my felting needle, going back and forth over everything, and I am just trying to work everything in together. Slight camera jolt there. Oh yeah, this footage was really blurry, so I just really overly sped it up just so you didn't spend ages looking at this really blurry footage. I'm sorry. There we go. Here I tear off everything again and get ready to work on it over again. But I think I'll go on to the more face structure. Here's me adding more paper mache to it and just like working it in, trying to get the liquid. I continue to work on the structure of the actual face part of the mask, trying to make it look both organic and like organic and natural, but at the same time still look like it could be a passable masquerade mask, because that's kind of the vibes I get from Phantom, like a masquerade mask skull like creature. And I'm just kind of working on where the smile line would go if this was an actual face. And I just thought, like, a lot of it I don't even know where it would be, like why it would be in that place, but it's just like oh, I do this, so I feel like I have to do that, and then it would look better if I have it here. Like, there's not really much logic to what I'm doing. I'm just like thinking, oh, I feel like this should go here, and I feel like that should go there, and I feel like this and this and this and this, that and the other, I guess. And here I'm using my scissors just to neaten everything up, and I'm just working everything round and making the edge thicker there, just trying to make everything a bit neater now. And I am just working everything into a position, and I am just trying to get everything as is how I want it to look in my head. I really wanted to have really heavy where the eye bags would go on a real person. I really wanted that to be exaggerated, building up the cheekbone area, just working everything round. And I am just pressing everything and trying to make it as smooth as possible at this point, trying to get rid of that paper texture that it had underneath. Just in some places I just apply papier-mache to my finger and just rub over everything. I realised that was too high, so I just cut a large chunk of that off. And I just continue to mould everything in, working on the brow bone area, where that will go up and around into everything else, trying to meld it into the rest of the face in a cohesive way. I am getting more scraps of paper and just working it between my fingers to try and build it up, and I apply it to the mask where the brow bone is. I'm really getting somewhere with this. This is where I could see what I wanted when I put all the face details in. This is where I really began to see my vision for this, I guess. But I just continue to work up that edge because I thought I really wanted that to look good. And just building everything up to make it as smooth as possible, working it around onto the back. A mask is a really difficult thing to make just because it needs to fit on a face. Well, obviously it's a mask, but it needs to look right, I guess. But then it needs to look good both on its own, on a face. It needs to fit correctly. I don't really consider the fitting until later, but honestly I recommend that if you are making this, consider it as you're doing it, because fixing cracks is a pain. And if you are putting a flat object into a curved shape, it will look like cracks will appear. If you do get cracks, the best way to do it is just put papier-mache into the crack and then cover it over with more paper strips, and then just act like the crack was never there. Probably the best way to do it. Wait for it to dry and harden, and then do painting and apply Mod Podge as needed, or as you would for the rest of the model, as though the crack had never been there. Curves will tend to crack. It's natural, especially if you start off with a flat object like this and just twist it around, because obviously if you put a flat object onto a curve, it will start to deform, and obviously it's not a uniform curveness. Parts of it will buckle and twist around. I'm working out where I want the edge of the mask to reach up to, just pushing into it, and I'm just working out the shape of the eye socket area. Here I need to make sure that it fits in my my eye, so I take it off the table just so I could make sure it was in the right place. I put in some toothpicks, so that way when I put it in onto my face, I could just use hair clips to attach it to my hair. Just blending those in as best as possible, and I'm just working on moulding everything in together, and building everything up as much as possible to make it look skull-like, but also skull-like but not unappealing, I guess is the best way to put it. I don't know how many times I've rephrased that in this video. And I'm just working on the eye socket part of the mask and working around and flipping it over. I'm just twisting everything into position and covering everything over. I'm just building everything up and working it around, and I'm just building up the bridge where the nose is gonna be. I've been really putting off retrying the nose, I think, but honestly I think I've just really been putting it off. But I at this point was just like, okay, I've got to do this. I think. And I start working it down this side and twisting it around. I'm just working it into position and I'm completely improvising here, but I mean, it's a necessary part of the mask, and I do think it comes out alright in the end. So yeah, it's just a necessary step, I suppose. And I just keep working at that bit over and over, going back and forth. I get more paper out, working it into the clay state that it has, and trying to start building it into position. Obviously you have to get it to almost like hover until it gets sturdy, so I just put something underneath it, which in this case is a pen lid, and I am just covering everything over, taking the pen lid in and out because obviously I don't want it to like collapse, but it's also getting in the way a little bit, so I just need to keep putting something in and then taking it out and then taking it back, putting it back in again, and just trying to keep shifting it, work with it there. Almost, and just keep working at this. This bit was really blurry as well, so I really sped this up. Just continuing to work out on the form of the nose, using a different felting needle now. Don't know where the other one went. I just use this one sometimes because it's got a thinner point on it, and it's better for like blending stuff together sometimes, or if you need something which is more detailed, but honestly I prefer the other one. Here I'm getting onto painting, mixing in a nice cream colour. I want it to be a yellowish white colour just because I want it to be this colour just because I feel like it is the sort of like bone-like colour. Here I am just starting to paint it on. Takes a few coats, and I was surprised at how difficult this colour was to paint on, even though it's so similar to the colour it was. These paints are very transparent, they're super cheap. Maybe I should splash out and buy some nicer paints, but whatever, these work. I've had them forever, and I mean, they do the job. I'm not going to spend money, I guess, on stuff that I have. And I'm just going over and painting everything, trying to get a nice even coverage, and just going back and forth over the painting, trying to get all the details in, I guess. Coat number 2, I'm just doing the same thing again, going over the areas that need it most first, and then touching up in different spaces. Going over the nose. This is coat number 3 now, I think. Going into different areas. You can tell I'm distracted by something just because of the point where I just stopped painting for some reason. I probably was playing a video or something. I'm just detailing, going on, adding highlights in darker sections. Just going over everything, adding in highlights, adding shadows and working it over, just trying to get a nice even coverage in a way that looks good. So I'm just adding in highlights and darker sections just by adding black and white to the paint. It's just to make it look like the higher places are even higher than you even model them to be, meaning that you can get a stronger effect out of your models. Turning it over to add a nice theatrical red colour to the back. I was kind of torn what colour to do on the back, even though it's kind of stupid because no one will even see it. It'll be on my face. I chose red because it is a very bold colour that I do relate to theatre, like a red carpet or red lipstick for stage makeup. And it's just a very theatrical colour, but it's also a menacing colour, like blood or anger is often represented by red. And I feel like that does, both of those things really match the context of Phantom of the Opera, which is almost like a conflict between a beautiful thing and a horrible thing. And here I'm just coating everything in Mod Podge. If you don't have Mod Podge, just mix glue and water together like PVA glue. So here's the final mask, and I'm really happy with this. Obviously, though, a mask is not a full costume. So next week I'm going to show you my costume and
any makeup that I do, and any props that I make, because I feel like that could add a lot to this design. Obviously, just wearing this mask isn't going to scream Phantom of the Opera. It's just going to be a lazy costume. So here we go. This is just the back of it, how it looks all over. I painted the toothpicks black, just painting those to your hair colour. But thanks for watching.